Once again, the Boston Landmarks Orchestra will offer a series of free outdoor concerts, making some of the city's most attractive open spaces come alive with music, community, and new connections. To tell us about this year's programs is the orchestra's music director. With us once again, Christopher Wilkins. Thank you very much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Christopher, talk about these connections, because this is not just about people who show up at some park. This is about the people who collaborate with musically.
Right. The Landmarks Orchestra programming is very much about bringing different elements of the community together around our programming. So while we program great works, and we're doing the Beethoven Ninth Symphony this year, and Elgar's Enigma Variations, and Copland's Rodeo, and these iconic great orchestral works, we use our programming really very much as a platform for collaborating with Boys and Girls Clubs, or Yawkey Club in Roxbury, Camp Harborview in Boston Harbor, Zoomix in East Boston, or just events in which we can pull together people from different areas, as for example our One City Choir, which is made up of singers from all over the city. Our goal is to have all 22 neighborhoods of Boston represented and outlying areas. We'll have as many as we can fit on the hat shell, and a few more down on the lawn. We have a waiting list to get into the One City Choir. They'll collaborate with the Back Bay Chorale. Scott Allen Jarrett's their music director, and the work is the Beethoven Ninth. So it's unusual the way that we do it, and we're lucky to be in the summer and in an open air environment where doing this kind of thing where even from work to work, it's unpredictable who exactly is on the stage, is not only possible, it sort of feels appropriate right there in the heart of the city.
No, I'm imagining that as a music director of one organization, whenever you work with another one, there's got to be a logistical challenge. But once you get beyond that, what's it like for people to be working that way?
Well, it depends on the perspective that you have. For our musicians, I think they love it. I think it's a breath of fresh air to work with kids, some of whom have never even heard a live orchestra before, many of whom have never certainly been on a stage in front of a large public before. For the kids, I think it's eye-opening, and our hope is that we're creating significant experiences for them that are exciting and joyous, but the memories of which will last a lifetime, and I think that's true. For our audience, I think they encounter both the familiar repertoire that regular concert goers know, and then these openings into Irish dance in Boston. What's that like? Or West African drumming brought from teenagers who have studied it in camp. It's often kind of a window into a world of music or dance or even theater. As you know, we've been involved theatrically, that they're not familiar with. It's a nice mix. I think that's kind of what we need in today's world. We can't assume that the tried and true is the only thing out there, because it's not, and we will fail to appeal to people who have a wide variety of interests. And being in the middle of a large city, that's what we want.
Well, we talk about, let's say, a dance program. This isn't just playing music that was used in ballets, because we're going to see the dancing, right? Right.
We'll see the dancing. We'll build a large stage out front, which, as you know, Chris, we've done every year for the past few years. And we'll have dancers. Some of them are housed at the dance complex in Central Square, and the evening is being curated by their founder and executive director, Peter DeMuro. He's actually choreographing Copland's Rodeo, the complete ballet, which is a little bit unusual, and we've gotten permission not to do the original choreography so that he could create something uniquely for a mix of highly professional dancers and amateurs. So he's calling it Pioneers, but not pioneers in the original sense of rodeo, meaning Western America, but whatever the idea of pioneering might mean. So for that performance, that production, we have members of Boston Ballet 2, which is very exciting, members of his company, Public Displays of Motion, and we'll have dancers from throughout the city involved as well.
Well, you know, I have good. I played some of this music when I was in a community orchestra, and when you talk about your programming, you know, one of the things that occurred to me, you know, years after the fact, maybe, is that, you know, one of the pieces in this ballet, which we think of as Western music, is actually derived from a real, you know, this is British Isles, Irish, Scottish, English music, that kind of music too.
Yeah, which is, you know, partly Copeland. He was such a sponge, and he was trained in Paris under the, you know,
A Brooklyn native.
Avant-garde, Brooklyn native. So what was he doing writing cowboy music? Well, he did and he didn't, as you said. Some of the music is more Stravinskian, and other parts of it have fiddle tunes that are more maybe reminiscent of the Americana tradition of Appalachia. It's all this wonderful melting pot. But that night we'll also have members of the Harney Academy of Irish Dance doing Irish dance. We'll have some Caribbean dancers. We'll have members of the Conservatory Lab Charter School who've played with us every year for several years now. Their Dudamel Orchestra will collaborate with us on the Emperor Waltzes of Johann Strauss.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with Christopher Wilkins from the Boston Landmarks Orchestra. I mean, there are some pieces in this program, you know, even if people don't know it, they'll come there, they'll hear the music, and say, oh, I've heard this somewhere before. Elgar, for instance, I'm sure people have heard
the Nimrod variation.
Yes.
I played this for a friend recently who said, wow, there's so much love in that music, which is what Elgar intended. This is on opening night, and we call it Music for a Summer Evening. Many of the pieces are about the summer or the out of doors or folk song based. The Enigma Variations was written for friends and family members and people that he was closest to in his life, real loved ones. And so, yeah, people will recognize that iconic Nimrod variation. And we're also playing another piece that I think you told me you had played yourself as a cellist, the Samuel Barber's Knoxville Summer of 1915, based on a James Agee prose poem about the summertime, sitting out in the grass and taking note of what you hear, which is, and in this case, it was the streetcars and the sparks flying off the wires above the streetcars in his native Knoxville, Tennessee, or the sounds of the birds, or of people talking around him at the age of 6 years old. He didn't know what they were saying. To him, they were saying nothing at all, but he noted the sounds. It's a perfect way to sit out on the Esplanade, on that beautifully new renovated lawn, thank you Esplanade Association, at the Hat Shell, and listen to poetry, which is about sitting on the lawn and your listening experience.
And one thing that really engages listeners here, there's more going on than you know, falling down the rabbit hole of childhood nostalgia. This is based on, you know, a novel and a real life story, I think, that is about
the family.
A recollection of the good times after trauma.
Exactly. And the role that family played for him in that, and his, as a very young person, trying to come to terms with a death in the family and what it did to the relationships, particularly between the older people in his family. So there's a deeply contemplative, I would say, even kind of mystical quality to the writing that I think Samuel Barber captures magically in his music.
Finally, we should mention that if people want to see what's on each and every one of these programs, you've got some details on the website for the orchestra.
Landmarksorchestra.org. We have quite a bit about each program there and about our collaborators. It's every Wednesday night up until August 23rd, beginning at 7 o'clock. Free concerts. That's very much a Landmarks idea. We have never charged a penny for anything we've ever done. And it's an open space. We encourage people to bring family, friends, and even your dog is encouraged.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Chris.
Christopher Wilkins from the Boston Landmarks Orchestra. We'll have more news in just a moment.